Words that shape our lives. A gentle reflection after 50. There are moments in life when everything becomes quiet, not just around us, but within us. These moments tend to appear more often after we cross a certain age, usually somewhere after 50. The world seems to slow down, not because it truly does, but because we start to observe it differently. We begin to notice the weight of words. We remember not only what we've said but also what was said to us, those sentences that lifted us and those that quietly broke something inside. And we realize a truth that perhaps we ignored in our youth: words are not simply sounds that disappear into the air. They linger. They take root in memory. They shape how we see ourselves. They influence how others treat us. They guide the direction of our lives, for better or worse. As a health and emotional wellness expert who has worked with many adults between the ages of 50 and 80, I've come to see how profoundly language impacts mental well-being. Often, the biggest breakthroughs in healing come not from new medicine or therapy but from a simple change in how a person talks to themselves and to the world. Because what we say reflects what we believe. And what we believe becomes our reality. But as we grow older, we're given a sacred opportunity to speak less, but with more purpose. To say fewer things, but with deeper meaning. And perhaps most importantly, to avoid the kinds of words that quietly drain our peace, damage our relationships, and close the door to growth. Today, I want to walk with you through 7 types of words that are best left unspoken. Not because we should suppress our truth, but because silence, too, is a form of wisdom. Especially when that silence protects our dignity, preserves our joy, and allows space for something better to grow. Let us begin with the first. 1. Never speak in defeat, even when you are hurting. It's a natural instinct. When life feels too heavy, when the body aches, when loneliness settles into your evenings, you might find yourself saying things like, "Nothing ever works out for me. I'm too old for this. What's the point anymore? Why even try?" They sound harmless at first. Just passing remarks. Just expressions of frustration. But in truth, these are not just phrases. They are silent invitations to hopelessness. When spoken often enough, they don't just describe how we feel. They define who we become. In my years of guiding older adults through emotional recovery, I have seen firsthand how words of defeat quietly sabotage the spirit. A woman who speaks of herself as broken becomes unable to notice her strengths. A man who constantly says he is useless will eventually stop offering help, even when he's fully capable. A person who repeatedly claims they are too old to change will resist transformation, even when their soul is crying out for it. These words shut doors. They make the heart smaller. They limit potential before it even has a chance to show itself. And what's tragic is that they often come from pain. From deep wells of exhaustion and grief that were never fully processed. From disappointments that felt too heavy to hold. And so, the pain finds a way out through the mouth. Through sentences that sound like surrender. But here's the truth, my friend. You are allowed to feel tired. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to cry and ask for support. But you are not meant to speak as if your journey has ended. Because it hasn't. I once worked with a man named Harold. He was 76, a widower, and had just survived a heart attack. When I first met him, his voice was low and his words were laced with finality. He said things like, "I'm just waiting my turn and there's nothing left for me to do." He had convinced himself that his value had expired the moment his wife died and his health failed. But something happened in our conversations. I didn't tell him to be positive. I simply asked, if you could still offer one thing to this world, what would it be? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I used to teach woodworking to kids. I always believed hands should know how to build." That sentence changed everything. He stopped saying, "I'm useless," and started saying, "I still have something to give." Within months, he was teaching a weekend workshop at his community center. The children adored him. And he stopped waiting for life to be over. He started living again. That transformation didn't come from a new prescription. It came from one shift in language. I am not here to tell you that everything will be easy from now on. It won't. Aging has its aches. The body slows. Loved ones leave. Our roles change. But none of that means your voice is meant to carry defeat. If anything, your voice should carry wisdom. It should carry gentleness. It should carry experience, patience, and the kind of hope that only those who have known loss can truly understand. So the next time you find yourself tempted to say something like, "I'm too tired to care," pause. Take a breath. And try this instead. "I'm resting today, but I am not giving up. I feel weary now, but this is not where my story ends. And if no one else has told you lately, let me say this clearly and with sincerity: you are not finished. Your presence still matters. Your words still carry power. Use them with care. Use them with courage. Use them to speak yourself into healing, not into silence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not to pretend everything is okay, but to choose silence over despair and then wait for the strength to return. And it will. It always does. Let your silence be a space for healing, not a tomb for your dreams. And let your words, when you do speak them, carry the quiet conviction that even now, even here, you are becoming. 2. Refrain from words of blame. They steal your peace without offering healing. When life doesn't go the way we hoped, it's easy, almost instinctive, to look outward and blame someone or something. We blame our parents for not raising us better. We blame our spouse for not understanding us. We blame our children for not being there when we need them. Sometimes we even blame God, fate, or the world at large. But here is a quiet truth that life has taught me: blame is a thief. It steals your peace without ever paying you back in healing. There's a particular heaviness that comes with holding on to blame. It's like carrying around a suitcase filled with stones, each complaint, each accusation, each grudge adding more weight. And the strange thing is, we carry that weight thinking we are protecting ourselves. But in reality, it only pulls us deeper into resentment. I remember an elderly gentleman named Charles, who at 82 still carried bitterness toward his younger brother for something that had happened 40 years earlier. Every time we spoke, the conversation somehow circled back to that event. It was as though he had pressed pause on his emotional life the day that conflict occurred. No matter how much time passed, that one wound remained fresh because he kept reopening it with words of blame. He said, "My brother ruined my life." But what truly ruined his peace was not the act itself, it was the reliving of it, over and over again, through his own words. Blame convinces us that we are righteous in our pain. It tells us, "You're not at fault. They are." And while that may sometimes be true, what blame never tells us is this: you don't have to stay stuck in the role of the victim. Let me be clear: acknowledging pain is important. Your feelings are valid. If someone wronged you, your hurt matters. But healing doesn't come from repeating the story of your wound. It comes from speaking a new story. One where you say, "Yes, this happened. But I am no longer letting it define who I am." As we grow older, we gain something precious: perspective. We see that everyone is flawed. Everyone is trying. And sometimes, people simply don't know how to love us in the way we hoped. But that doesn't mean we need to poison the rest of our life with bitterness. The moment we stop saying, "they should have," or "they never," is the moment we begin to reclaim our power. So the next time you feel the urge to speak words of blame, especially when you're feeling lonely, frustrated, or disappointed, try asking yourself this instead: what do I need to release in order to find peace? What is this old wound still teaching me? And most importantly, what do I want my remaining years to be filled with, grievances or grace? Because make no mistake, every time we tell the story of someone else's failure, we delay our own healing. Let your words reflect your strength, not your suffering. Let them be a bridge to understanding, not a wall of resentment. And if silence is the gentler path to peace, choose silence. You deserve to be free. And freedom begins when blame ends. 3. Avoid words of worry and pity. They dim the light inside you. There's a kind of sorrow that doesn't shout. It doesn't look like anger or blame. Instead, it whispers quietly in your thoughts, colors your conversations, and slowly drains your hope. This is the sorrow of chronic worry and self-pity, and it's far more common than we think, especially as we age. Perhaps you've heard or said things like, "I'm such a burden. I don't matter anymore. Everything is just getting worse. People only tolerate me now." These phrases often come not from self-hate, but from deep sadness and a longing to feel valued again. They come from a desire to be seen, heard, and needed. And yet, when we speak them again and again, they don't invite compassion. They invite distance. Why? Because even the most loving people can grow weary when all they hear is pain they cannot fix. Worry and self-pity, when expressed constantly, create an atmosphere of helplessness. They pull others into our storm rather than lifting them into our light. But here's the deeper problem: when you speak as though you are invisible, you slowly start to become invisible even to yourself. Your mind begins to accept the idea that you are fading. That your best days are behind you. That no one truly cares. And that, my friend, is a lie. A cruel, persistent lie. I once met a woman named Eleanor at a senior living community. She was 79, lively in movement but deeply sad in spirit. Every conversation began with complaints about her body, her family, the news, her neighbors. But what I eventually realized was that underneath all her words was one heartbreaking belief: no one really sees me anymore. So I asked her, when was the last time you felt truly alive? She smiled faintly and said, when I used to garden. I loved growing things. I encouraged her to start a small garden on her balcony. At first, she doubted herself, saying, what if I can't keep them alive? I replied, then let them teach you. Let them show you that life still wants to grow around you and within you. 3 months later, Eleanor's balcony was full of green. She stopped opening conversations with complaints. She began talking about how her basil was doing, which bird came to visit, and which plant needed more sunlight. Her words changed. And so did her presence. Words of worry and self-pity had dimmed her light. But words of joy, growth, and appreciation brought it back. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing what you emphasize. Instead of saying, I'm lonely, you might try, I'd love more connection. Instead of I feel useless, try, I miss feeling purposeful, what could I contribute today? That small shift changes the energy of your words from heaviness to hope. And if you don't have the words yet, that's okay. Sometimes the best way to stop pity is to do something kind for someone else. Even a phone call. A handwritten note. A shared recipe. When you make someone else feel seen, you begin to remember your own visibility too. You are not a burden. You are not forgotten. You are not broken beyond repair. Speak life. Even if your voice trembles. Even if your heart is tired. Because there are still things growing inside you. Still things waiting to be said that could lift someone else. Still moments ahead that are worth waking up for. Let go of the language of pity. And instead, begin to speak like someone who still matters. Because you do. 4. Don't speak in anger that cuts deeper than you think. Anger is a fire. And like any fire, it can warm or it can burn. When handled gently, it gives light to truth. But when spoken in haste, anger scorches everything in its path, especially the people we love most. As we grow older, we may think we have tamed our temper. But the truth is, age doesn't always soften us. Sometimes, the weight of life's disappointments, unhealed wounds, and accumulated frustrations creates a quiet pressure inside. And that pressure waits for a word, a look, a disagreement to explode. Have you ever spoken in anger and then spent days regretting what you said? Have you ever wounded someone with your words, only to realize too late that silence would have been kinder? Many older adults have confessed to me the same regret: I wish I had held my tongue. Because while bones can mend and memories can fade, the pain of cruel words lingers. Especially when those words come from someone who was supposed to protect, love, or uplift. When we speak in anger, we may win the argument, but we often lose something far greater: trust, connection, and peace. A woman once told me she hadn't spoken to her daughter in over 5 years because of something said during an argument. Neither could remember the exact words. But they remembered the pain. They remembered the silence that followed. That silence became heavier than the anger itself. In moments of heat, we may feel justified. We may believe we are just being honest. But honesty without kindness is not truth, it's cruelty. The next time your heart races and your voice rises, take a breath. Step away if you must. Say nothing for a while. And when you return, speak only if your words are more powerful than your silence. Let your anger teach you about your needs, your boundaries, your hopes. But do not let it speak for you. Because once spoken, words cannot be unsaid. And those who love you deserve your clarity, not your fury. 5. Refrain from boasting. Quiet confidence speaks loudest. In a world that celebrates noise, there is deep power in restraint. While others announce their successes, list their titles, or display their possessions, those with true confidence do not need applause to feel worthy. Boasting may seem harmless, especially when we're excited. We achieve something, we want to share. We overcome hardship, we want others to know. And yet, when sharing turns into showing off, it creates more distance than connection. Older adults often feel the urge to prove themselves in subtle ways. Perhaps because society undervalues aging, we feel tempted to remind others. I used to be in charge. I built that business from nothing. I was the smartest in the room. While your experiences are worth honoring, remember this: the people who matter don't need to be impressed, they need to be inspired. There's a difference. One uplifts. The other competes. A man once came to one of my workshops and spent most of the session talking about his past achievements. He wasn't unkind, but something in his tone made others feel unseen. Later, during a break, another attendee whispered, "He must be very lonely." Sometimes we boast not out of pride, but out of fear of being forgotten, of becoming invisible. But you do not need to be loud to be remembered. You do not need to list your worth. You are valuable simply because you exist. And those who truly see you will recognize that without a word. The quietest elders in the room are often the ones with the richest stories. And when they choose to speak, people lean in. Let your life speak for itself. Let humility be your strength. Let your presence be your legacy. 6. Avoid speaking words that harm or humiliate. There are words that rise quickly from the tongue: sarcasm, criticism, gossip, and fall heavily on someone else's heart. Sometimes we don't even mean to hurt. We are just being honest, or telling it like it is. But intention doesn't erase impact. Words can injure in ways the body never shows. A cruel comment. A passive-aggressive remark. A careless joke about someone's appearance, memory, or past. Especially among older adults, where generational norms differ, it's easy to say things that feel normal but are deeply damaging. And more often than not, we hurt the ones closest to us. Because we assume they'll forgive us. Because we don't realize we are doing it. But here's something to remember: the older we get, the more powerful our words become, not because we are louder, but because our voice carries the weight of life. If you've raised a child, mentored a student, or loved someone long enough, your words shape their self-worth. And once shaped, it's hard to reshape. A grandmother once told me that she jokingly called her granddaughter chubby every time they saw each other. It was meant to be playful. But one day, the granddaughter stopped coming. When asked why, the girl simply said, "I don't feel safe with Grandma." That broke her heart. Choose your words like they are seeds. Plant kindness. Water with grace. Let love bloom. You never know who's listening and how deeply they are feeling. 7. Guard your secrets and speak with discretion. In the later chapters of life, we carry more than just memories. We carry stories, some beautiful, some painful, some still unresolved. And with these stories come secrets. But not everything that's true needs to be shared. And not every opinion needs to be spoken. Wisdom means knowing the difference. It can be tempting to vent, to share someone else's struggle, to reveal a private truth that was told to you in confidence. Especially when you're trying to feel close to someone, it might seem harmless to say, "Don't tell anyone," but secrets are sacred. Whether they belong to you or someone else, they are not yours to give away. Discretion is not dishonesty. It is maturity. Sometimes, older adults fall into the trap of oversharing not out of malice, but out of a desire to connect. Yet oversharing can push people away. It can damage trust. And once trust is broken, it is slow to rebuild. Think of your words like a home. What kind of space do you want to offer people? One that feels safe, warm, and respectful, or one where nothing feels protected? A woman who speaks with care becomes a woman others seek for counsel. A man who honors privacy becomes someone others trust. Let your silence be a sign of strength. And when you do speak, let every word be chosen with intention. Because the older you get, the more people listen. Make sure what they hear makes them feel better, not worse. Speak with grace, or not at all. There is a proverb that says, "A word is a bird once it flies, you cannot call it back." And as someone who has spent decades walking beside those in their later years, I've learned this is not just a saying. It is a law of life. You are not defined by your past. Not by your mistakes. Not by your silence or your slip-ups. But from this moment forward, you have a choice. Speak words that heal. Speak words that uplift. Speak less, but with more love. And when in doubt, choose silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of wisdom. Thank you for spending this time with us. If even one message today touched your heart, I warmly invite you to subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts in the comments. What resonated most with you? What word will you choose more carefully from now on? Your voice matters. Your presence matters. And your story is far from over. Watch more of our videos to discover gentle guidance, deep reflection, and a path toward peace in every season of your life. Wishing you a beautiful day ahead. May you be well, may you be heard, and may you be deeply at peace.